All right. Welcome, everybody. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're watching this, when you're watching this live or on demand. And welcome, Tom Zeppenfeld from Graphileon. Thank you for joining me today on this Neo4j Live on creating an interactive routing application on the basis of Graphileon, and we'll explore that. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. My name is Tom Zeppenfeld, as Alex explained. I'm the CEO and founder of Graphileon, and happy to be here with Neo4j. We are a partner with from Neo4j since the beginning of our existence, so we know each other quite well.
Yes,
but
we do.
I'm looking forward to this demo.
Me too. I'm looking forward as well. And you said it already. I kind of wanted to set the stage a little bit. So you are Graphileon is a Neo4j partner. You are Tom. I think we know each other for quite a long time. When was Graphileon founded? I think that's also a couple of years now in existence. So
yeah, we were incorporated in 2016.
2016. Wow. Yeah, that's also quite some time now. So it's great. Graphileon is and I guess you'll introduce the company and the tool a little bit. It's maybe in my words, and then you take your own words. Graphileon is like this no code or low code application that takes visualization of graph data to a very approachable and very visible level, so that people can take the data they have in the graph database and make applications, build applications on top of that have a strong visual underpin, sort of, if that is that's how I would describe it.
Yeah, that's part of it. Perhaps people who have known us for a longer time, they remember our initial name was Graphileon Interactor. That was the first name of our product, because we wanted to provide an easy way, let's say an easy way, as in, let's say, not for core developers, to interact with the graph. So, and it's part of it is visualization, of course, but also managing, so creating nodes, creating relationships. And that basically was born out of the, let's say, out of the necessity that I felt myself, because I'm not an IT guy myself. I'm an agriculture engineer.
Okay,
and I like modeling, but I'm not a coder. So I needed something once. I think it was 2014, 15, in the era of the Panama Papers, when I learned about Neo4j, because that was one of the, let's say, elements in the technology stack that the journalists, the ICIJ, were using. I wanted to use a graph, but I didn't have the skills. So that's where it started, and eventually Neo4j, the people who were doing the partner management at that time, and us, we learned about each other at a meetup somewhere in 2015 in Amsterdam. Yeah. And Rick was already there. I don't know Neo4j without Rick, by the way. So it's but that's where it all started. And of course, our tool developed a lot. It's spun a little bit out of control, but it's still a lot of fun. And recently, we went more into graph-related things related to maps.
Okay.
And that is, let's say, also the context of today.
Exactly. That's a little bit why we're here. I saw you're very active on Twitter, so follow them on Twitter. Follow Tom and Graphileon, and they, you showcase a lot of things, cool glimpses of what's possible, what you're doing with your tool and with graph data on the back end. And I saw your post about this routing application, and that's when we two talked, and then we realized, okay, we should do a live session. But you do much more, obviously, and I guess you go over that in a bit. I just wanted to, before we go, and Tom shares his screen and gives a bit of the story. I just wanted to invite everybody in chat, when you're watching this live, to post your questions as we go. So I'll collect them, and we have some time either in the middle or towards the end of the session that Tom can obviously answer. So if you anything you would like to know, type it in chat, and we'll have a look for that. yeah, but without further ado, I'll switch over here to your screen, and then we can dive in.
Okay, cool.
Okay, we can see your screen.
Yeah. Okay, good. So today is about creating an interactive routing application. And let's say we talked a little bit about what Graphileon does, but our foundation is in graph. So what we do in the case of a connection with Neo4j, we leverage a lot of the power that is inside Neo4j. We leverage that and make that accessible to Graphileon and to the users of Graphileon. And let me give in a couple of slides a little bit what actually we mean by low-code application development for graph databases. There are basically four big items. The first one is that you can, as I said already, manage the graph without writing Cypher using simple forms. So let's say initially when you download Neo4j in the beginning, you could not create a you could not create a node because you had to have a create statement, and you would have, if you wanted to have the create an edge or a relationship, you needed to let's say to get the nodes and then create a relationship in Cypher. So that is the first thing that we started to make easier. You see here on the left a form that is used to a very generic form to create nodes, and you can add the properties that you want. As you know, schema Neo4j is schema free, so we also copy that in our interface, and the same for the relation form on the right. The next thing that we think a low-code application tool should use is that it would allow you to interact and visualize. And that means that creating graphs, so really the network visualization, but also maps and charts, but not wouldn't have to code them yourself or to integrate them from a library, but the integration should already be there. And now all these are a couple of examples on our screen. These maps and these charts and this graph, they all have events that you can use to connect them. So, for instance, a query to a map or a query to a chart. And that brings me to basically the key feature of what Graphileon does. We create applications using patterns. So a function that has a trigger relationship with another function. And in the example below, you can see here on the left that it started here with a query. And then when the query is executed successfully, it sends the data to a grid, so which represents is basically a wrapper around a widget. So it creates a widget, a table on your screen. And then the next event that you could let's say configure by creating a relationship to the next query is a trigger with a row click event. So when that would mean that it's an event that fires when you click on the row in the grid, and it takes the data as a parameter to the next query, and then it would create this one. If this query would execute successfully, it would go to the chart. And sometimes you can have branching, or you can have fire these triggers at the same time, for instance, to go to a map. And when you map, you click on a marker, you get a form, and the form, when you click it submit, you have a query, for instance, to save the data from the form. So this is basically the main, let's say, distinctive feature of what Graphileon is. And we've often used the tagline that we all work with graph data, but your application is a graph too, as you can see, because these nodes that you now see on the screen are actually stored in a graph database. And the final element in the low-code application development, of course, is about integration. So we have, using this function trigger function pattern, we have the capability to fire requests to web services, or also to configure Graphileon endpoints. So the data that is you can access through Graphileon, you can make it available through an API endpoint, and all that without writing a single line of source code. The final part of integration is authentication, and we have a number of integrations using Okta, Passport, etc., to allow you to integrate the authentication also with other systems.
That's super cool. Sorry to interrupt, Tom, but it's like when I see all these especially these low code or no code applications, I think it's so great to get started and to get something going without this huge hurdle that usually comes before you do anything by learning lots of things. If you make it easy and if users can start right away, that you get an immediate response and a first success moment directly after short time without having to do all the heavy lifting right from the start.
Yeah, that's for sure. Of course, like in any application, you have to have a basic knowledge of Cypher because you want to know what kind of data you want to retrieve from your database. But once you have that, you can very easily, and that's in a matter of let's say 15-20 minutes, you can have your first application. And then even now, we recently started with publishing examples in a kind of app library. So you can immediately from your Graphileon, you can download these examples and they run out of the box. And I think currently, let's say in a lot of organizations, people are talking about digital transformation and stuff like that. And that's really the new, let's say, the big data, the graphy data era. And you see a lot of situations where people, for instance, are willing to start with graph, but once they have chosen the graph of their preference, because some graphs are more, let's say, some graph products are more, let's say, suited for certain tasks. But imagine if they have a Neo4j instance, then the next step is, of course, okay, how can I display what is possible? How can I make a prototype, etc. So there, of course, the prototype, when instead of having a couple of days of weeks of coding, if you can do in a couple of hours, you can create your basic idea of your application and then demonstrate that or demo it in front of people who really make, let's say, the business decision. That's, of course, a huge advantage. And we also see that when people are, let's say, in the beginning that organizations work with the graph, their models, they evolve a lot. So they have a lot of new use cases they discover. And so also when they are discovering, it's a very agile, it allows you to work in a very agile way to gradually add functionality in the form of a table that you can click on, or a filter, or an additional form. So that's the kind of thing that Graphileon excels at.
Cool, thank you.
Okay, so basically, what I think I will show some examples today of this function trigger function pattern, because basically any application for 90% it's functions that trigger each other. So let me go to my next slide, and that is the first slide of what is, okay, the demo that I want to talk about today is creating an interactive routing application. So there are a number of steps that we will go through during this presentation. First of it, it's okay, where do I get the GeoJSON? We because one of the cheapest way to create let's say a network of roads and road segments is to do it based on GeoJSON, which of course can be easily obtained using the from OpenStreetMap. Then the next step is to convert that GeoJSON to a graph. That's the next step. Then I will briefly visualize the GeoJSON, so an overlay on a Google map. And then my first, let's say, demo, really where you use the power also of the graph algorithms, in this case the aStar algorithm, is by adding two markers on the map and finding the best route using aStar. And also how fast that algorithm allows you to recalculate a route when you introduce a roadblock, or which could be traffic, which could be any other disruption.
Yeah.
Next, I think people often like it when things move, and that gives me the opportunity to showcase some other non-visual elements that we have in Graphileon, like timers and iteration.
Okay, cool.
Then I will show a demo on, let's say, on dispatching emergency vehicles. Imagine you have a city where you have 20 or more police cars driving around, and you have an incident somewhere. You want to dispatch the 5 closest cars, and you want to do that in a fast way, and that is what this demo shows. And also, I will spend some time looking at the Graphileon configuration to explain a little bit, let's say, this function trigger function using some examples. Also, before I forget to say that, in a couple of days, also the Graphileon configuration that I am using today, we will publish that in our app library, so that for anyone who uses Graphileon in a couple of days, especially, they can immediately, let's say, look at how these things are done and use it as inspiration.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I will put a link into the description once it's done.
Yeah, it's I'm using the what we call the personal edition. Graphileon has a server edition, which is, let's say, commercial, but we also have a personal edition that can be run on Windows, on Linux, or on Mac, and that can be downloaded for free from our website, and it includes the link to the app library. So that is something that I decided to use only the free version today.
Okay.
So there's no enterprise features that you have to pay for. That I will use during this demo.
Nice.
Okay, good. End of slideshow. Now let's do some real stuff. Okay. By the way, my background is in Amman, so I live in Amman, Jordan, and today I will be using also an example of Amman. Let's first look at the tools that we are using. First of all, I'm using Neo4j desktop. I spun up a graph database with a couple of graph DBMS with a number of stores in there. So we have, important for us today is the Neo4j store and the test2 store. I use 2 stores in this case because I don't want to mix what we call the Graphileon configurations, or the Graphileon functions, which are in a separate database from the data that I will use for the routing. And I will also, we have here the database, and if I run this one, it's at this moment is completely empty. So the first thing that I'm going to do is, let's import the data, and I will do that using Graphileon. And for that, I wrote some scripts. Here I'm looking at Graphileon. I have a specific pathfinding dashboards, and I have here a number of shortcuts. I can style them any way I want. And one of the shortcuts is, what is to load data? And what it displays is part of what we consider a part of an application graph. So here are a number of queries. The blue circles are queries, and it's a sequence of queries, and every time a query executes successfully, it goes to the next step. And here this module is an HTML component that will display the progress. Now, before I start doing that, I will show one other example. I have here a button that says, what is in the store? The store doesn't contain anything. It doesn't have any model or sample data. And for instance, this simple action to see how this is built in Graphileon, because a lot of the functionality of Graphileon is built in Graphileon. I have here this diagram, and that tells me a little bit more about how Graphileon applications work. I have here, this is Tom, this is the user, and the user is, we have teams over here. So this is a default team, and this default team gives me access to what we call a dashboard. And so this blue square here, it represents one of those dashboards. And then I have here, if I look at this query, it is a very simple Neo4j apoc query. Apoc, for those who do not know, is a very powerful addition to standard Neo4j. It's a library with many and many very usable functions. I will be using it a lot in today's scripts. So this query runs a cipher statement, and as you can see, this is basically these are the properties of a Neo4j node. But inside the properties, there is the cipher statement. And when this cipher statement executes successfully, so the trigger here, it says, okay, it sends the data to the next component, which is here the table view. So this green table view corresponds to this widget over here. And here, as you can see, I have two buttons, model and sample data. So those appear automatically at the moment that I create these kind of batch triggers. And here I have a batch trigger that says sample data. So for instance, if I have here, I have sample data. So once the database is filled, I will find the result over here. And this is metadata, which returns a virtual graph, but which can also be displayed in what we call here a Y-files view. This is a network visualization based on a Y-files library. And for the personal edition, this version, this library, let's say the integration comes for free with Graphileon Personal Edition. Okay, so once again, the query for the load data. So what I now will do is I fire this with the shortcut, and then it will jump as this cascade. It will be executed one query after another. There are a couple of differences. For instance, here, first one here, that is if there is any existing data, I will delete them using an apoc periodic iterate. It's good for batch queries, batch processing of large amounts of data. We are talking about 500,000-600,000 nodes here for this application. And then here I have create features. So yeah, well, it's not that much, okay.
No, but I mean for a demo, quite a sizable amount.
Okay, good. Yeah, well, then it becomes more real life. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, here is one of the key things, is to load the, let's say, from a file, the JSON. And let me tell you where I got the data from. We have here this site's BB bike extracts, which allows me to extract all the GeoJSON in this format. Yes, you have features, you have points, you have also line strings, and you can extract that directly from OpenStreetMap in a very very handy way. And what you then get is basically this this set of data, which I had one example. Okay, it doesn't really matter. Okay, let me split this out.
Lots of numbers.
These are all GeoJSON features, but what we are interested in is the line string features, which represent a highway. Yeah, so each feature here has a set of coordinates. So this is one point, and it goes to the next point, and it goes to the next point. And what we will do, I will first import all these features. And then the next step is from each pair of those points, I will create, so each point here will be represented by a node in Neo4j, what we call a waypoint. And between each two nodes, there will be a next relationship. And then, of course, there is some of them are, sometimes you have a one-way or a two-way, and I will process that in a way that if you have a two-way relation, two-way street, it will get a next to one and a next to the other one to be able to do the routing correctly.
Yeah, cool.
So that is that. So this is first, I get all the from the JSON, I get all the features, and I store them in a node in a, let's say, of the labeled feature. That's the second step. And then the next step, I do it, you see here already, it's a little bit different. I have here two success triggers. So when this query executes successfully, it can go two ways. And let me see, let me show how this works. This is a little bit different setup. Here I get all the features, but I process it in batches of 1,000. And then, let me create it. So here, here you see I detect whether there is a one-way street, and I create 2 points using the point data type in which is available in Neo4j. I create a from and next, but when there is it's a two-way street, I also create it to the the other way around, and I return the number of nodes that I have processed. So basically, it gets all the features that I do not have processed. I process them, and then I return the count, which returns me here, for instance, if my success, if the number of successes, if the count is still superior to 0, then it redoes the query. And if the query is 0, the count is 0, then there is nothing else to process, and then I go to the next one. Now, next step is adding some additional properties using X and Y, because I will be using an apoc.algo.aStar algorithm, and that requires an X and a Y. It's still, I hope in the future it will be able to do so, but in the moment it cannot yet work with point properties, so I have to create an X and a Y. And what I, of course, have to do for a routing application, I have for each segment of the road, I will need to have the distances. And here I also store it twice, and that is to be able to handle the blockage. If I put a blockage, I put an additional weight, and if I remove the blockage, I remove the weight. So this is basically the process that I will run now, and you will see in the progress window, you will see what is happening. Okay, so still we are still at 0 data. Yeah, I'll make it a little bit bigger. Okay, so now when I press the load data, this button, it actually starts working. The database is still empty at the moment. It's still at this stage. And now I will fire it. Okay. So basically the first step, if you can follow it, it's okay, it's now creating the features. Features have been imported, and now it goes through this loop. Every time yeah. And you can see here what is in store because it commits. In the meantime, you can see here the count go up. Yeah, the count of waypoints go up. Yeah, so basically now I am creating the data. Also here you can see the counter go up in this part.
Nice.
And this is okay. Every time I click it, 206. It has to go up to about 500,000, I think. But now basically I create the graph. Once the graph is there, I can look at the model as it has been used to store the data. Okay, 300,000.
Yeah, it's very nice. I mean, definitely with the progress window, you directly see what it's doing, and that you get you know
some feedback. Yeah.
Feedback, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So here the count was 0. Then it moves to the rest stage. XY properties added, and it should give me at a certain moment. It will now be calculating the distances. Okay, now it's finished. Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Let's see what we have in data. We have 501,000 waypoints. And if we look at the data, so the model, so this is model. Basically, this is the entire model. So I have my GeoJSON feature, which has a waypoint relationship, and the only relationship that exists between waypoints is the next relationship. So this is extremely simple. And if I look at the sample data, so I can see here, I have here, one is my feature, and this is apparently this is a two-way street, so the distance is the same in both directions. So here I have a next relationship with a distance and the weight that are equal. And here on the waypoint, I have the point, but also the X and the Y, which, as I told you, were necessary for the apoc algorithm. Okay, so now we have the data is in there. Okay, now let's show some mapping. Okay, first, okay, I can bring up a map. So what I do here, I have a shortcut to a map component, which is in Graphileon we call it a map view, and it's a wrapper around Google Maps. And if I download the GeoJSON that I have just inserted, okay, here you get your GeoJSON that is now based on what is in the data store. In the store.
Yeah.
As you can see, it is not. The coverage is not complete, but it's OpenStreetMap.
Yeah.
What you also saw is that it apparently my query can detect the boundaries of the map.
Yeah.
Because it's only limited map. So because if I now get more GeoJSON,
then it
shows
updating.
me
yes,
this
nice.
overlay.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, this overlay. Okay. So basically you see is that these are each element here. I'm not sure if you can see it. These are all road segments. So this one is a next relationship. This one is also a next relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's visible.
So this is okay. Yeah. Okay. So let me now good. Okay. So what, for instance, something that you could do now is say, okay, I click on them. I have a point on the map, and I have another point of the map. Yeah. So I just remind you, this functionality you can all create it without writing code. Yeah, it's and you can also say, okay, you can make it a little bit intelligent. I can say remove, and it puts in a green. And if I remove this one, it will put on a red. Okay, and I have here. Let me remove this one first. Okay, here, for instance, the find route button is still disabled, so it requires two items on the map to activate this button. Okay, I run it. And now it calculates the routes using the GeoJSON, let's say the next relationship based on the GeoJSON, and using the aStar algorithm, which is, let's say, the shortest path with heuristics for locations and calculated on weights. Now, something that you can do now, for instance, is okay, what happens now if there is a roadblock here? Yeah, you can just click on it. It becomes red, and it recalculates the route. Here, if I click again, it will recalculate the route, and you will see here that at the top that the distance goes up. And of course, this is a very nice example of what you can do with graph, because you can see here the number of hops is 73. So you go in a graph, you go 73 deep to find the shortest path. So I can make it even more harder to get to that point. Yeah, every time the distance will go up. Yeah. I can, since so this is what I do. I use the, let's say, the difference between distance and the way to recalculate it. I can clear all the blocked segments in one time, and then of course it should go back to the normal route.
That's wow. That's super cool.
Yeah.
Yes. That's
okay.
That's
so this
nice.
is what you can do, and let's say the algorithm is yeah, it's extremely fast in the way it is implemented in Neo4j. So that's quite easy. So okay, now You can do more fun stuff. Let me clear the map. Okay, I'll make it a little bit bigger, because in a city like this is, by the way, this is the city where I live. This is Amman, and as you can see, it's especially downtown. It's an old city with very small road, a lot of small roads.
Yeah.
Sometimes you want to know what are now the main arteries in your in your um, in your city.
Hmm.
And what you can do is what I did. I took, let's say, 8 points, so north, northwest, north, northeast, etc., and then calculated all the routes between those points to find out where are my arteries of the arteries of Amman, I call that.
So the main
The main routes.
the main
And
roads.
this
Yeah.
is then the picture that you get. Yeah.
Okay.
Which
Hmm.
which gives you a good idea of where, if you want to go from north to east, etc. That is, let's say, this is what you can do.
Hmm.
Okay. One thing. So for the path finding, let me look. I have this diagram. Yeah. Okay. So this is the diagram that displays the logic for the parts that I just showed. And the key thing here is the find route query, which is, let's say, which is a query that takes two points, and this is the, let's say, the apoc.algo.aStar from x from, let's say, using the weight from and here the coordinates for the latitude and the longitude. So this returns a number of paths, and no, this take actually sorry, yeah, this takes this finds the shortest path based on weight. And what I do here is to, let's say, to process everything back to GeoJSON that I can send to the map. I think I would advise you to, once you have the configuration downloaded in the app library, it will be, let's say, you will learn a lot from going through this. Okay. Now, if I go to a next part of the demo, I was looking at, because we talked about dispatching cars, and let's go there bit by bit.
Yep.
First, for instance, if I want to add a car to this, what this part demo does, it adds a car. So it first picks a random start and an endpoint of a route. It displays the car, and if I click on the card here, the car comes loaded with its route. So these are all the waypoint IDs that this car has to go to.
Hmm.
And it has a certain speed, it has a current index. So basically, or the waypoint index. So each time, in a timed way, it moves to the next waypoint. So if I start moving this here, you can see that it starts to move.
Yeah. Now it goes.
Yeah.
There it goes. And
Yeah.
at the
And then it
destination.
says at the destination the icon changes.
Arrived. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So is
So
this
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 is
something you could use to simulate congestion or something like that? Is that?
you could do that.
Yeah.
You could do that.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. We are actually, let's say, this is, of course, I just created a demo route, but
Yeah.
we are now also working on a use case where actually from let's say from incoming let's say navigation application, you can display this on the map. And of course, the way things move, it tells you a lot about where the traffic goes, and how dense the traffic is.
Yeah. I think, I
Yeah.
mean, that's maybe if you can stay there for a second, because also a question in chat came in about the dynamically represent temporary high traffic in a certain area. I guess before you blocked a road because it was not possible, is it also possible to say, hey, okay, now this road is not blocked, but it's super it's super congested. Can you find a way around? So kind of like suggesting, let's
Yeah.
say, during rush hour when everybody leaves home or goes to work, that this road is not ideally to take, but maybe take a detour
Yeah.
nevertheless.
Basically, what I do, and let me go back to the pathfinding demo. So where is the blocking? I think it's this one. Yeah. Okay. So basically, I can hear what I do in this query is set. This is what happens when I click the green route, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it sets my it inverts my blocked status, but it also increases the weight. So basically, what I do, I fool the I play a little bit with the apoc.algo.aStar algorithm, because when I give a weight of 100,000, that route will never be the shortest.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, that's what I do. So because A-star depends on weight, so
Yeah.
whatever weight you can put, you can make the route. Let's say you can make the route go around that.
Okay.
And of course, you can do this dynamically because it is not something that I do not use a virtual graph. Neo4j and both and the A-star algorithm are fast enough to do this really on an on-disk graph.
Mm-hmm.
So once you write it to the graph, everyone who accesses that graph will find the same blockage.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can indeed update the graph, and then immediately it will start rerouting.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah. Okay, I had rerouting. Okay, so what I do for the rerouting here, we have a timer. So I added the car here. This was a car, and this batch trigger was so it takes the boundaries of the card of the map. It prompts me how many cars. I set 1, and then I put it in the card. And at the moment that I start moving, I have a timer component in here, which is set by 250 milliseconds. So every 250 milliseconds, it repeats. So this kind of non-visual components are also available. And then basically, let's say when the timer ends, it fires a move query. I don't think it writes anything to the database. It just moves the marker 1, and then so that's where the animation comes from. And you can as you will see in the next part, you can animate a number of cars. And perhaps people have seen here already this video thing. That's part of the next next video.
Okay.
Because I go back to the map,
mm-hmm.
and then I'm going to zoom out a little bit, and then I'm going to add not 1 car, not 5 cars, but I'm going to add 20 cars.
Okay.
And imagine this is police cars. So I have 20, and each of those cars has a route in it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So these are a lot of waypoints. So all these cars will start to move initially at speed 1.
Yep.
Yeah. Now, so what I now will want I'm simulating is first they do their route. If they arrive at the destination, the marker will change and stuff like that. But imagine that these are police cars that are doing their patrolling. I will also dump on the map a number of incidents, and then it's of course interesting to see what is going to happen. So here they start moving, and now I have an incident
Nice.
over here. I see it in my property, and immediately the cars start chasing.
Ah, okay. Now
And you can do
I
that
see
multiple times. So there,
blue cars.
yeah,
Okay.
blue cars. The blue cars are moving at a higher speed, and they move to a specific location. It chooses the 5 nearest cars based on
Okay.
the A-star algorithm.
Yeah. And then they kind of dispatch to the accident
They
sort of.
are dispatched. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it says me here which cars are at the thing. So it tells me which cars arrive, etc.
That's cool. Very cool.
Yeah. So basically,
Yeah.
what you do is and let me run that again. Let's challenge the system a little bit. Okay. Okay, let's throw 40 cars in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, what it does when they start to move. So when I drop a point, it finds among all the moving cars and which have not yet been dispatched, it finds the 5 shortest, but not through air distance, but over the road using the aStar.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
then
That makes sense. Yeah. It's sometimes
it's
closer.
It should be over the because yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's super cool. Yeah, and see them go. Yeah, they go again. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
Okay, so this is the
cool.
dispatching of cars, and you can of course have all kinds of alternatives to it. Okay, it's I have still 13 minutes or something. Yeah.
We can take as much time as we want. I mean, technically we have this is scheduled for an hour, so we have 15, 20 minutes or so. But if there is more to show, then we can obviously
well,
add
let's
a bit
say
more time.
one of the I want to have, let's say, some time a little bit a look at the rerouting, at the kind of logic that we have.
Yeah.
So these kind of applications, they are very easily built. Of course, let's say there is some secrecy, let's say some skill involved in writing the cipher queries. But I wanted to have a minute to talk about the app library.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I now go to my default dashboard. When you install Graphileon, you will see here a button called App Library, and that has a number of items. This pathfinding you will not find, but we will make a new version tomorrow or the day after. But here you have a number of applications, demo applications that you can easily install. And it goes hello world, which is quite simple. But let's have some kind of a chart with an update button. I will install this. And before I do that, I will see here, I have here 2 dashboards. And in my Graphileon personal edition, I have the ability to have on total 3 dashboards. I can still install one additional app. And if I do that, I can see, okay, what is here the logic over there. So this is also a very simple application. It has a dashboard with that files a chart, and then you can let's say there is a button that does something to the chart. So if I want to install this one, I simply click install. I confirm my install because it's going to write to my database. It reloads, and now I will have a 3rd dashboard over here. And when I run that dashboard, okay, I can do the charts data. So I have the chart here, and with the update button, there is functionality. So I know if I want to have, for instance, uninstall this one.
To which database is this now connected? Do you need to set this up, or is it creating a
no,
new?
No. This we try as much as possible. We try to provide examples that do not require additional data.
Okay.
Yeah. So, for instance, I will install one additional dashboard, the app library. There is a thing of linked charts. So this is a demo illustrates how to link charts in Graphileon. It also, you can preview the logic. It displays the logic. So you have a query that generates a grid, so a table and a chart. And then when I click on the grid, it fires another query, and then it produces 3 charts. Now, if I install this one, it will use the data from. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, I'm running into certain limitations, but I can share because I have also the other demo in here. But let me show you. I always have my plan B ready. Okay, I can also show it over here. And as you can see, I have a lot of dashboards.
Oh yes,
but it
I
isn't
can see that. Yeah,
graph.
yeah. This
Graph
picture I
demos.
remember. I saw this.
Yeah,
You
the gas
tweeted that
pipes. Yeah,
a couple of days ago. Yeah.
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 So here I have the same demo, but a little bit styled, perhaps a little bit different. So I have my query, and here you can have, every person can have his or her own styling. So that's also,
Okay.
and styling can be based on properties or whatever, including shapes.
Mm-hmm.
So I find this query, it has the card. So if I run this one, where is it? Here, charts. Okay, you can see that it triggers two disk visualizations, the grid and the chart. And if I now click on this row on this grid, it will fire this query and produce 3 other charts.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
And then you get it. Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
And then it
Yeah.
directly.
So you can.
It's almost like
It's dynamic.
like a dashboard. Then you can.
It is a dashboard,
Yeah.
but let's say we call all these things, and for instance, in the enterprise version, you have unlimited dashboards. On the personal edition, you have 3 dashboards, which you can, let's say, playing with the applications in and out.
Give it
You
a
can,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's that. And if there are, I'm not sure if there are any questions at the moment, then I have still time for one additional demo.
Go for it. Yes, demo is nice. Yeah, go for question.
Yeah.
Go for demo.
Okay, so here I have one additional. One of the interesting problem in routing is the so-called traveling salesman problem. So you have a person, or you have a person that has, let's say, you have to, let's say, you add a number of shops. So I have 5 shops here, and I need to find the shortest route going to all the shops. Now, and what I did, I implemented this way, so I can drop somewhere. I can drop a motorbike. This is my rider, and it calculates immediately the shortest path. If my motorbike comes from another place, the route is different, and you can see here the sequence on the left. So it starts. Well, actually, this is twice the same sequence, and it's interesting.
Does it? Maybe there's a
It
road.
does. Well, perhaps it's just the data. We can add.
Yeah.
Try another case. Okay, perhaps this one. If I go from here.
Yeah, then it starts on here.
It starts here. Yeah. If I do it over there,
yeah,
it goes there.
Goes the other way around, basically. Yeah.
So this is also, let's say, without graph algorithms, this would basically not be possible. Yeah. So if there are, I don't know if you have collected a number of questions.
I have collected a couple of questions. So I think you showed already how you have, if you have a Neo4j database running, can you connect to that? And I think that's something you already showed to and I was just wondering, and I think, but you said it. I think if you have an Aura Neo4j Aura instance, for example, is that compatible with Graphileon, or do you need some sort of certain requirements from Neo4j? Right? Yeah.
No, you just can define an Aura. I'm still sharing, right? Yes, I'm still sharing.
Yeah.
So what you can do is add a store, select Neo4j Aura here. Yeah, and it has a number of presettings like the port and the encryption and things like that. And you have to, let's say, give it a certain name. So in all the Graphileon, let's say the stores that you're accessing, so as I did now, the application and the pathfinding store are coming from this Neo4j desktop. They have to be named, and so you can address them as with the store property in Graphileon. So you can, let's say, as I said, with the personal edition, you're limited to 3, but for let's say other editions, you can have X graph stores connect to it. What we see sometimes, of course, if you run on your local machine and then go to Aura, choose, let's say, I'm not sure if in Aura they can select in which area of the world you will have, of course, but you can expect some latency of course, depending on where your store is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in general, also we are also available on AWS, Graphileon. So we always, of course, recommend to have to use a region that's close to where your database is. Yes.
Yeah. That makes sense. Now you mentioned it now, personal edition and enterprise edition. Any other differences beyond the three data source limitation here to worth noting?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Let me go to our website where there is. We try to explain it. So as you have seen, you have certain functionality in Graphileon is related to these function nodes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So and also to the number of users. So our idea is okay, if you have an application that has a lot of functionality in it, so it has a large number of function nodes, then it's a valuable application.
Mm-hmm.
The same applies for perhaps a more simple application, but which is used by a large number of users. Yeah. So our license pricing goes up. So our license is based on the number of basically on dashboards, users, and functions.
Okay.
Yeah, functions. So and these together we call them Graphileons. We
Mm-hmm.
have our own currency. So I think there's a query that you can run. I'm not sure if it's here.
There it was. Graphileons.
Oh no. Yeah, Graphileons. So for instance, the Graphileon, so the personal edition has 64 Graphileons.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that is excluding the default configuration, and that's also why I ran into this limit. Why I wanted to run this thing. So there are 3 dashboards, 1 user, 1 application store, and then you can go out team edition, and then you can have, let's say, with large number of functions.
Mm-hmm.
And in our experience, quite a complex application. You can build it with, let's say, 300-400 functions, and of course, the more experienced you become as a Graphileon user, you can easily reuse functions.
Okay.
As you would do in any programming language.
Mm-hmm.
You would just create basic helper functions and stuff like that. So you do not create them all over and over again. You refer to them. So then it becomes also easier to manage and to maintain your application.
Yeah.
So that's basically. So for the G256, for instance, you can have 100 users and 5 dashboards and about 150 functions.
Okay.
And then you run it. And we do not care what kind of let's say Neo4j product is, whether it's big or small.
Mm-hmm.
For us, our added value is let's say, give users the ability to create applications, and that is where our business model and our licensing model is based on.
Okay, that makes sense. One more question from me here from chat. Can we make API calls Redis cache to Graphileon? Is that something you can do with Redis?
Yeah, Redis.
Yep.
Yeah, Graphileon has, let's say, the ability to do API calls. We also support Redis Graph, by the way, but that's another story. But we can use, you can do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else? I think we covered most of other question open points I had. I think you showed visualization on a map and also other dashboard kinds of visualization. So anything else you'd like us to show, like us to see what Graphileon can do, or anything worth noting from your side?
No, I would really, of course, but then that would take me for a couple of hours, and let's say let's limit it to. I prefer to do another session in 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
But I would really invite people to download the personal edition, try out what they can do with, let's say, with the apps that we make available through the app library.
Mm-hmm.
We are also available on Slack. So when you download the personal edition, you get a link also to our Slack platform.
Mm-hmm.
We are also, by the way, we are also available on the Discord, the Neo4j Discord.
Yep.
So there are many ways that you could reach us. Also, if you have a question on Stack Overflow, if you tag it with Graphileon, we have our own tag over there, so that will also be picked up. Yeah, we're looking forward to hearing your questions.
Yeah, sounds good. Perfect. I think that's the best way, right? I mean, download it, give it a spin yourselves. Connect it with any Neo4j database you have already running, or you create a new one, and give it a go with these demo sets that you showed, and a couple other things. I think people can start quickly themselves and have a good understanding. I like the demo a lot. I think it was cool with especially the visualization part. We are very visual beings in general, and I think if you see little cars driving around, or adding a roadblock here, and then they have to move another way, and then the the police chasing effect. I think that was super cool demo. So yeah, thank you very much, Tom, for giving us the tour and showing us around. Any additional links I will put in the video description on YouTube, so you can find it there if you're wondering where to go next. And with that, I think we're done for today. Sorry again for the little connection issue, but yeah, hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you had a good time with it. Thank you again, Tom, for joining. If you like, to see more from Tom, follow Tom on Twitter or any other outlets he mentioned. Follow Neo4j, obviously. Also, subscribe to YouTube if you want to be updated when we go live next. And yeah, with that, I wish you all a good rest of your day. Enjoy and stay safe, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye, Tom.
Okay, bye.